This is EnRich Your Life, a podcast about financial health, all things investing, life planning, and smart decisions with Richard Leimgruber.
Hello and welcome to EnRich Your Life. I'm your host, Rich Leimgruber. Enrich Your Life is all about exploring financial strategies, but not only for personal, but also for business owners. And we want to do that with prosperity and purpose. We're starting a new Prosperity for Business series soon, and this is going to be one of our first podcasts that we're introducing for business owners. I'm your host, Rich Leimgruber, with over 26 years of experience, not only helping my clients, but also helping business owners by helping them plan and implement financial strategies to enrich your lives. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest challenges business owners face: how to scale your business without losing control. My guest today is Brian O'Connor, and he is the founder of Aevisor Solutions. His firm produces on-demand part-time chief operating officer services with strategic guidance for direct-to-consumer and founder-led companies, building smarter systems, improving margins, and even helping prepare for exit strategies. And in this episode, we'll explore how AI and operational discipline can help you scale faster, make better decisions, and create lasting enterprise value, all without killing your vision. So let's get started. Welcome, Brian.
Excellent. Thank you, Rich. It's a huge honor to be on the podcast. I'm a big fan, so thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And you inspire me, okay?
Right.
So what I will say is that I used to be a pizzeria owner many, many years ago before I got into the financial planning business. And we were very successful very early. And, you know, what I think you do for businesses is exactly what we could have probably used 26 years ago. Before we get started on the operational side, I always find it fascinating to learn what drives people like you. And in the world as a financial advisor, I've always met entrepreneurs who started with a spark. Maybe it was a problem they wanted to solve, or maybe it was trying to do something better than somebody else. Like, I have a better idea, right? But their why is what keeps them going and what makes them want to stay in the business when things get tough, right? So what's your story, and how did you get started in being a COO?
Yeah, so let me see. So initially out of college, went to Bell Labs, that later became Lucent Technologies, did a lot of really fun M&A work and got to meet some amazingly smart people.
Yeah.
Then went into consulting, did consulting for 7-8 years, then ran, and then went to Pitney Bowes, had a number of roles there, classic sort of big company stuff, procurement, supply chain, logistics, then ended up going to corporate strategy, all of that leading towards what was a very purposefully a career for general management. Realized, you know, look, it's a great business, great environment. If I wanted to have the career I wanted, I was going to need to sort of go to smaller, mid-sized companies.
Right.
Which is what I ended up doing. And I've always been attracted to operations. There's something about the sort of physical nature of it and actually being able to see things, touch things. It makes it more real than other aspects of business. So got the opportunity to run, you know, divisions and parts of two high growth businesses. That was amazing. I mean, taking an e-commerce business through COVID and, you know, figuring out how do you do a warehouse on the fly and the supply chain and the logistics and everything. So fascinating. I was fortunate to do that for 7 years and work for investor-backed businesses.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of a career break in, you know, second half of 2024, trying to figure out what I want to do next. Started doing some side consulting and realized, well, you can actually do it. And what's always kind of motivated me is really, really hard challenges. And so when I'm going through and prospecting and working for clients, I'm really incredibly fortunate that I get to pick the types of challenges and things that I can add a tremendous amount of value to. And one of the things I had noticed over the last 10 years is most small, medium-sized e-commerce businesses, you know, you can get to like $1 million in product revenue pretty quickly. But then they kind of tap out there because what got them to say $1 million or $2 million isn't what's going to get them to, you know, $5 million or, you know, $30 million. And, you know, there's just needed to be like a really good sort of quality operator to help that small business.
And that's where you come in with Aevisor,
and that's where I come in.
So for listeners who might not know, can you break down what a COO or a chief operating officer does and what's your role when you come in to help a business?
Yeah, sure. So generally a chief operating officer is the right-hand person of the CEO. So the role is going to be doing a lot of the blocking and tackling that may not be the CEO's core strengths. So, and that's usually around the actual operations of the business. So that's the procurement. What are you buying? What are you paying for it? Where are you warehousing it, storing it? How are you getting to the customer? What's really the cost side of the business? And then how much inventory do you have and how quickly are you turning it?
So somebody taking an eye on the actual function of the business, the wheels are moving, and you're making sure that things are done smoothly, you're not running out of product, that you're renewing and bringing in more inventory and stuff.
And you're getting all of the teams aligned. To answer your question, like what do I typically come in and do? Usually I find a lot of small businesses don't actually know what they make on each and every SKU that they sell.
Okay.
They might know at the gross margin level, but they don't know at the EBIT or EBITDA level. And so that's one of those things that I end up doing very, very early on is getting SKU level profitability. And then you can sort of map that up with the level of inventory you have, and you can sort of say, well, we have a lot of like really profitable SKUs we need just to turn faster, or we have a lot of unprofitable SKUs that we should probably stop buying, and you have to have a conversation about that.
And usually it's the ones that aren't as profitable, the ones that are flying off the shelf. And that's maybe why they are flying off the shelf, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've learned working with small business owners is that success doesn't always feel successful, right? And I've seen clients hit record revenue. I've seen, clients behind the scenes, they're exhausted.
Yeah.
They're chasing orders. They're juggling cash flow, putting out fires every single day. And it's one thing to grow, but it's another thing to grow well, right? So that's why I'm excited to have you today to talk about today's conversation, which is operational excellence. And we're going to add something to this, why AI, artificial intelligence, can help business owners regain control. And that's exciting. I mean, we talk about AI now like it's the next wonderful thing that's out there. But there's a way to use AI, and that's what this conversation is going to be about, right? So when I meet with small business owners, one of the common things that I hear is, Rich, the business is growing, but I feel like I'm losing control once I start scaling up. It's a moment where, passion meets process. And at times, they're using tools that might have worked for them when they were small, humble, couple of employees, but they have all of a sudden outgrown that. And I'm sure that you've seen what that can do to a company, right?
For sure.
So what are some of the biggest pain points that you see when you start working with companies that are starting to scale? And how can AI give founders a competitive edge early on?
Yeah, so real example, worked with a company earlier this year. Great founder, started the business, managed inventory on an Excel spreadsheet, which was awesome at 100,000, maybe a couple $100,000 in revenue. And then as they grew, they went from the kitchen table to their own warehouse space, hired an operations manager who was supposed to update that every week. The first operations manager probably did, and then they left, and then the second operations manager came in, and next thing you know, the spreadsheet of inventory wasn't updated for 5 months. Ooh. And so it was actually like a really interesting sales call for me because I wanted to go buy something off of their website, and I was going to proudly have it on the Zoom call. And the first 3 orders all got rejected.
Oh.
So, because...
Which is not what a new customer wants to see.
Which is not what a new customer wants to see. Especially in e-commerce, you're spending $20 to $25 probably to acquire a new customer. Definitely not good for a new customer. So worked with them to get the right system and process in place and, fix the inventory ordering issue and align that with all of their sales channel, which you take them from Excel spreadsheet to kind of like this OMS, which is an order management system. Yep. And then you sort of start to layer in some AI on top of that so that they get better ordering decisions faster.
Okay. And we're going to get into some of those types of things, right? So, and I say I work with small business owners. They're always busy. I don't think I've ever met an unbusy business owner, even if they're not really that busy, right? Strong sales, happy customers, but when they dig into their financials, cash flow's tight. Expenses are outpacing growth. Yeah. And they're trying new marketing campaigns. They're just trying to throw darts at the wall. Like, can I try new marketing? Can I hire new people, right? So how can AI tools from forecasting to process automation help uncover the hidden inefficiencies before they actually become serious and, possibly ending the business?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a couple of easy answers to that. First off, if you have a bookkeeper, take your financials once a month, upload them, and ask AI to tell you, what does this mean? Compare it against the forecast. Do the classic FP&A or financial planning and analysis work. So
AI will do that for you.
AI will totally do that for you. It'll give you a relatively good answer, and the free AI will do perfectly fine.
So you would go to your software program that you gather all of your expenses in and forecasts, and you would basically just input that in and put that into AI and ask it to run it.
And you could just upload it as an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file, however you want.
So do you have any examples where AI or technology revealed something a business owner completely missed?
Yeah, for sure. So what I've seen AI do, especially on the marketing and customer service side, is really dive in and be able to pinpoint better what the underlying issue is.
Okay.
Right. So really simple example. In e-commerce, you have what's called the PDP, or the product description page, right? It's the page that has the buy button. Probably 10 to 15% of those pages don't work right, but if you deploy AI tools, you can check that every night.
Oh.
And rather than waiting for a report at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter that says we sold none of these particular widgets, and then you're kind of reactive, right? So that's one aspect of what AI can uncover a really quick risk.
And on the flip side, is there any risk of relying too much on some of the data, losing that hands-on instinct founders often have?
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that when talking to founders, they are very, very concerned about. Their intuition is so incredibly important to them. But at some point, to go back to your very busy founder, if they're going to get less busy, they have to scale and bring on a team, whether that's a fractional or a full-time person. So like the tool can augment their ability to look at stuff. It can also make it easier for a new team member to get up to speed.
So you talked about building a self-funding growth engine or using systems that generate cash instead of draining it.
Yeah.
What role can AI play in optimizing working capital, pricing, or inventory to make growth fund itself?
Yeah, so it can play across all of those spectrums, right? So AI it's not magical. It's stats and math at a very, very high level, quick level. So to the extent you can feed it really good quality data, you can pick up on signals that you wouldn't see otherwise in the business, around demand planning, right? So, hey, this item is slowing down some, or this item now needs a little bit more love for marketing. And it can sort of see that in real time and start to make those micro adjustments. Okay. So that frees up inventory, which is cash, which is profits. It also washes it so much closer than what any team of people could actually achieve.
So I'm going to bring something up that from other past interviews. One of the things that I hear all the time is clients are always asking, is AI going to take my job away? And somebody gave me a great answer for it, and they said no. However, somebody who knows how to use AI very well could. Yeah. Right. So the idea is you have to learn AI if you want to stay relevant in what you're doing for a certain company. Right.
Right.
So you also wrote a recent paper that is titled "The Real Competitive Edge of AI Isn't the Model, It's the Operator."
Yeah.
Right. So I think you've done a phenomenal job in this paper. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to review it. And I think you're ahead of the curve here. So one of the things that you explain is AI is less about which systems you choose and more about how you change the business to use it. Mm-hmm. So can you give us an example of somebody maybe just bringing AI in for the first time? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, at a super high level, what I see business owners doing is they obsess over the tool selection, right? Whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini as more kind of consumer apps, and then there's various different business apps. But the fact of the matter is the models are so close that picking the right model is not necessarily going to drive any sort of better difference because you're looking at like less than a 1% difference.
Okay.
Example, I was talking with somebody earlier this morning at my daughter's football game was, ChatGPT allows roughly 90,000 words into the context window, right? So like it's going to take you a long time to type 90,000 words into ChatGPT. That's like a Harry Potter book. And then there's other tools that allow you to type 1 million words in. But reality was like you don't need either, right? So why worry about that limit? And instead, it's really not so much whether you get to type 90,000 words or 1 million words. It's the quality of the operator and the quality of decisions that people end up making with it.
And then you also mentioned in the paper there's a 4-step program for implementing AI and the way that reliability creates business value, right? Mm-hmm. So the first one you use is data discipline. And I found this very interesting. So can you just explain a little bit about data discipline when it comes to AI?
So the first and most important thing with AI is you have to have quality data supporting it. Yeah. The data has to have context around it, and it needs and it needs to be complete because again, AI is amazing, but it's just doing math. And so classic garbage in, garbage out, right? Mm-hmm. If the data is not great, you're not going to get good results. And what the data discipline really means is somebody in the organization needs to own the data quality and making sure that you're feeding AI the right data and that it's complete and is of high quality.
But how does somebody know they have high quality data? Is it from like their own business profit loss statements and the systems that they're using? So I guess what I'm saying is if you bring in AI and you don't have your foundation of data clear and correct, you're just adding AI, which is going to spit out what you're giving it. Right?
And that's super dangerous because you're going to rely on it and think it's good data, but it's really not. In the financial world, an example of what good quality data looks like is, let's say somebody uploads their P&L. Mm-hmm. But you need to sort of understand were there a bunch of accruals made or undone in that period, right? Because now all of a sudden the expense numbers might look unusually low, and AI is not going to know. Okay, it's really low, but we were undoing a bunch of accruals.
Gotcha.
Or maybe on the inventory side, and I keep going back to that one. AI may not know that you were out of stock of a bestseller, and so it's going to under forecast what you could have actually sold.
So don't jump into it. Make sure you have the good foundation first, right? Second one is decision design, embedding AI where it actually happens, right?
Yeah.
Where work actually happens, it says.
Yeah. And so this one's a pet peeve of mine. I see a lot of people start AI with, let's get a really great executive dashboard so every morning the executives can log in and look and see what's going on, which is fine, except that in larger organizations, maybe not the pizza shop example, the executives aren't doing any work, right? Like, or they're doing work, but it's not stuff that's immediately changing it, right? So I've seen dashboards where, they say, how many website visitors did I get yesterday? Well, like, that's great, but if you're the CEO or the president, you aren't, you have to then go follow up with, the social media manager or the marketing manager and say, hey, why was this number up or down 10%? Gotcha. Versus giving those people the tools so they can drive the actual results.
So you said it reinforces a core truth. Workflow integration matters more than the model horsepower.
Yeah. So again, the models are all relatively close in capability. So picking the actual model is not is not as important as people think, but getting it close to the work so that the people who are doing the work, in this case, going back to the previous example, the social media manager or the marketing manager, giving them the tools that they need to affect their job and embedding that in their workflow, right? So if you're a marketing manager, you're deciding every day how much money do you want to spend on Google AdWords. Well, let's give you better tools so you can do your job better.
Team habits is number 3. Winners are becoming learning organizations and acting on insight faster. What is that all about?
Yeah. So one of the big things about AI is it gets through analysis and data much, much faster. You can come to a decision quicker.
Right.
And the faster you can go through the analysis and you can come to that decision, you can implement a decision, and then you can look back and say, hey, what did I learn? And then you can feed that back in and make a continuous improvement loop of decision or analysis, decision, implementation. You learn something about it, then you keep iterating. And the faster you go through that loop, that's what's really going to drive, at least for the next, I don't know, 5+ years, massive amount of improvement, right? So like, let's say you and I run competing businesses. Everything else is perfectly the same. But if I'm learning 100% more every year than you, at the end of 2 years, I'm making 200% smarter decisions. At the end of 3 years, 300% smarter decisions. That's a massive competitive advantage.
Right. And I mean, I've seen that with my chat, bot that I use, where it automatically knows, like, I don't have to say I'm a financial advisor or I'm a podcast host. It knows it already, right? Like, it's pretty incredible. Yeah. So I see how it learns off of prior things, and it just continues to expand and helps you dig in a little bit deeper. So that's wonderful. Last one, number 4, is the transformation tax. Why most AI projects stall. So that's a really interesting thing for me.
Yeah, so AI is so new now. It's very difficult at the start of a project to say, this is how long it's going to take, this is what it's going to cost, and this is what you're going to get at the end of it, right? If you were to, say, want to rip out your bookkeeping software and go from one platform to the other platform, that's been done enough that you can get a really good sort of solid project plan. There's a begin date and a end date. With AI, since you're really looking at how does work get done and who makes decisions, changing that is really hard, right? Because as you push decision-making rights down to the people who are more on the front lines, middle managers kind of get a little put at risk, right? Because the decisions they used to make, subordinates making, executives get put a little bit at risk too, because the decisions that they used to make middle managers are now making, and it's going to take a little bit of learning and getting used to. The way I kind of think about it is when electric motors were first invented.
Yep.
We had up until then been using steam engines for manufacturing. And the layout of a manufacturing plant at the time was everything was in this circular location with all of the biggest steam motor or the biggest piece of equipment that needed the most amount of steam closest to the steam engine. And all we initially did was take electric engines and bolt them onto the individual machines, which is kind of what we're doing. And then it wasn't until Henry Ford came along and said, oh, you know what, let's just get everything in this like nice straight line. And it took like 2 generations of manufacturing managers to make that change.
Cool.
I don't think it's going to take 2 generations of managers for the AI changes to make, but I think ultimately, like, that's kind of what we're looking at is how do you change decision making. One of the examples that's in the paper is in e-commerce and retail. There's always the sort of classic Monday meeting. You review what you did last week, and then you make tweaks and adjustments for what you're going to do this week, right? And so the people at the table there are like the inventory demand planners, marketing for pricing, finance who's looking at the books, and then operations who's saying, yeah, I can ship this many orders or I can receive this much. Here's the amount of work that the organization needs to sort of do.
Gotcha.
With AI, you can do that meeting. You can do the analysis, which usually takes 3 or 4 days. You can do that analysis, twice every day if you wanted to. But the organization's not set up to make a change that quick. Right. So now it's going to take a little bit for people to sort of say, let's get rid of that Monday morning meeting and let's maybe make that do that meeting 5 times every week.
And that's going to be the speed at which AI is helping increase, right? And if inventory wise that you're running out of something that much sooner, you can quickly order it and not have that embarrassment of where we're out of stock. Yeah. Right, out of stock. That's the worst thing you could do for I'm going to get back into the COO part of all this. Is we also talk about a sale or a succession. And when I work with business owners preparing for sale or succession, they often are surprised that valuation isn't just about revenue. It's also about having a predictive and systemized basic business plan, right? New owners want to see stability. And you've advised for over 25 mergers and acquisitions. So what are some of the early warning signs that a company isn't ready for an exit? And how can AI help owners measure or even prove their readiness before taking a conversation with a prospective buyer?
Yeah, so some of the early signs are, if you are the business's sole salesperson or you have to get brought in to close every deal, that's probably a good sign that you aren't ready. And I'll back up because I'm also an investor as well. So one of the things that, as an investor, as well as advisor, I look for is, can the business run without the current principles? Because if you're going to buy a business and you're going to cut a principal, life-changing amount of money check, their motivation to stay may not be the same. Right. You really want to look at what's the systems that the business is running on, and are those, one, sound for the current size, but two, really set up so that if you want to grow that business 2x, 3x, 10x, that the systems have that sort of capability.
Many business owners fear that adding structure will slow them down, right? So how do you use technology or now AI to introduce systems without killing creativity or agility?
And so I think the benefit around AI is you can really look at and model and simulate a lot of things really quickly. So the intuition and the creativity goes into what you sort of model and what you simulate, and then you can make and that process doesn't take long, which most entrepreneurs are not a big fan of. Mm-hmm. But then it gives you a much higher level of confidence, because you've looked at, probably in the space of a couple of hours, 20 things. You found out 18 of these are like never going to work, and here's 2, and these are probably the 2 best ones, and the entrepreneur can help pick which is the right one.
Again, it's just making things quicker for, getting that information right in front of you as quickly as possible, right? So we covered a lot of ground from operations to AI strategies, and I'd like to end with something that's more tangible. For business owners listening right now, what's one AI-enabled tool or operational step that they could take this week to get more control over their business?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Make sure you really have a good product level profit and loss statement. Get all of the accounting right. On average, you're probably, my best guess is about 20% of most businesses' SKUs, they're actually losing money on.
Yeah.
So start there. That's going to help you free up cash flow. It's going to help increase the profitability of the business. And then after that, have an honest conversation around what are the things holding the business back. And now you have a pool of money to help go invest.
Is that what you call like a lost leader?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's okay to have lost leaders. I'm not saying you can't, but not having that product P&L, you don't know the order of magnitude of how big that lost leader is, and you don't know how many, and you actually have. So going through that exercise, you find out that, you had some that you thought were profitable because they had good gross margins, really aren't, and you had never intended for those to be lost leaders.
I can't thank you enough for coming in and sharing all your insights today. And, I think that for any organization or any business that's out there that is just struggling to scale, there are experts out there like Brian or as other COOs that can come in and help you figure it out. And I always say, especially to, my family, if something goes wrong in my house, like a plumbing issue, we call a plumber because they're gonna be the best. If something is going on with your business, call a COO. Make sure that you have somebody who can come in and analyze what's going on and help you correct it before you lose your life savings because the business has to go under. It's been incredibly insightful. Tell us a little bit about how somebody can find you. What's the name of your website, and how they can contact you if they're interested in speaking with you.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and then also Aevisor Solutions. That's AEVISOR Solutions.com.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
that's great. Perfect. So if you're a business owner and you'd like to reach out to him, we're also going to put our that information in our show notes. Just take a look at that, and you can certainly reach out to Brian and get any additional information that you might need, as well as you can email us here at hello@enrichlifepodcast.com, and we'll be more than happy to introduce you to Brian or get you the information that you might need. For our listeners, if there's one thing that you could take away from today's episode, it's this: growth doesn't come from working harder. It comes from building systems that work for you. So whether you're optimizing cash flow, preparing for an exit, or simply trying to gain back control of your business, the right structure, supported by technology and now AI, can help you get there faster, right? So the same way we align with your personal wealth plan and your business goals, operational alignment and technology can turn complexity into your clarity. And that's why we're creating our new business owner series. So check out our website, enrichlifepodcast.com. I'd like to thank LMC Media and Vectorly for helping me produce this podcast. You can connect with us directly at hello@enrichlifepodcast.com. And I just want to thank you for tuning in today. And thanks and have a great day.